Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for the Ultimate Fighter Finale 18. Overall, man, the pacing for this event sucked bad. Oh my god. Like, seriously. I remember watching the Sampo versus Benoit. I don't know if it's Benoit or Benoit. And I was thinking, okay, this looks pretty good. And then I'm like, going through these prelims, I'm like, man, this is just so long. It just felt like a long time between fights, and it was just, most of the fights were alright. Yeah, there's some decent fights here. The top 3 fights are pretty fun to watch. A lot of decisions, wasn't that great. The pacing just really killed it, because there's so many, it's like commercial, something happens, like walkout or something, and then like another commercial or something. It's just really bad. I mean, as far as pacing goes, I think finishes could have really helped this card. Some of the fights weren't too terrible, too. It just, the pacing was just that bad. It really brought it down. As far as bonuses go, Nate Diaz got knockout of the night. Chris Holdsworth got submission of the night. And Ryan Benoit picked up Fight Night honors for his loss to Joshua Sampo. But because Sampo failed to make weight on Friday, the UFC elected to give Sampo's $50,000 portion of the bonuses to Benoit instead. There's actually some talking points here, though, just about women's MMA in general. Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, the stoppage in the main event and whatnot. So, let's... I guess before I even get to the action, I guess I'll go to... There's like to continue with the pacing too. There's like that segment with Anik in between Tate and Rousey, and man, Rousey just doesn't like Tate. She can't even look at her. I didn't even see the post-fight thing. I heard that she was not great here. Rousey's personality is not shining through very well. She's really polarizing. People will either love her or hate her at this point, and she definitely what's the word? Not ostracized, but geez, I forgot what the word is, but she definitely, made it so that a lot of fans probably won't like her very much after this. But she's champion, she topped the sport, And if you have a polarizing if you're really polarizing, it's not the worst thing. I don't think it's the worst thing to be. It's better to be Rousey than your cookie cutter. Oh, I want to fight this guy next. Everyone's my toughest opponent. This is the best training camp I've ever had. Just like that cookie cutter guy. Let's get started. Nate Diaz beat Maynard by TKO in the first round. There was some controversy here whether Yves Levine stopped it too late. I am actually of the camp that Yves Levine's stoppage was just fine. I liked where he stopped it. I think there's something to be said about hindsight, I suppose. It's like, oh, well, he could have stopped it 5 punches before that. But in the moment, I didn't think it was bad. Even now, it's not something that I kind of crucify Levine for. I thought it was fine, to be perfectly honest with you. Could he have stopped it earlier? Sure. Is it the worst stoppage? No. At that moment, Maynard was still standing. It seems like he had some wit about him to at least push Diaz away. But I'm actually not, I don't find Levine stoppage to be that bad, to be perfectly honest with you. This fight actually says a lot more about Maynard than anything else. I mean, his defense isn't that great. When he gets hit clean, that guy just backs up straight. It's kind of like Arlovsky with his hands down. And the guy's chin might be gone. I mean, seriously. And 3 of her last 4 fights, he got knocked out by Frankie Edgar, TJ Grant, and Nate Diaz. You know, I 34 years old, you know, been in some wars, especially 2 wars with Frankie Edgar. I say wars because they were like the 5-round thing. You know, I just think his chin is gone. He's definitely, you know, I don't even know if he's a top guy anymore. I wonder if he's more of a mid-level guy now. I don't know. And in my opinion, I mean, they're doing the same with like Jim Miller. They're giving him like Fabricio Camoes as his next opponent for UFC 168. If Maynard, you know, depending on what he does, he keeps fighting, whatever, he probably will. Maynard should just get like a lower mid-tier guy next. I mean, you know, give him some off a loss. I don't even know if he's giving him a prospect. You give him a James Krause or something like that, or like give him a Matt Wyman or something. I mean, someone around that level, like a Sam Stout, or like a, you know, someone he can beat, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Nate Diaz should get Rafael Dos Anjos next. One other thing that was really interesting was Nate Diaz's post-fight interview. I didn't understand half of what he said, to be perfectly honest. I know he mentioned that he was hungry for food. He's talking about Gilbert Melendez and him being like the best guys. I think he called out Pettis and Thompson, I think, in a tag team match or something. It was a very Diaz interview, and this is actually kind of what I'm going with, like Rousey, and the Diaz brothers are like this too. They're really polarizing. You either like what he's doing or you hate it, but indifference is actually worse than anything else, in my personal opinion. You know, you get fans by being, you know, more polarized and just being more different. That's why a lot of people like the Diaz brothers. You know, some people hate the Diaz brothers, but other people, I mean, they like them a lot for stuff like this, you know. And then they have fun fights as well. But stuff like this, it's like, you know, it's like, typical Diaz brother. You know what I mean? Good win for Nate. He actually really needed this win. And, like, at least his prospects for, like, a title shot aren't totally dead. I mean, he's not going to fight Benson Henderson. And if, like, Anthony Pettis still has his title, and maybe if Diaz can pick up, like, 2 more wins after this, hey, Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis, kind of cool, you know? I'd pick Pettis to kick him in the head, just, like, harder than Josh Thompson, and the body. Kick him in the head and body harder than Josh Thompson did, but... You know, that's even if he even gets that far. But nonetheless, at least he kind of kept himself in that top 10. And another win would actually get him into discussion, at least, as far as a lightweight title shot. So he kind of kept himself still relevant in the top. So it was a really, really good, emphatic win. Much needed for Nate Diaz here. Next fight after that, Juliana Pena beat Jessica Rakoczy by TKO. 4 minutes and 59 seconds of the first round. I ate crow, man. My picks are 7 out of 10. This is one of the ones that I missed. I missed it bad. Dude, oh, man. I hate missing fights. You know, I hate predicting fights really badly. Like, it's one thing if I say a guy's gonna win or lose, but it's another if it, like, the exact opposite of what I said happens, you know? At least with, like, Akira Khorasani versus Maximo Blanco, I picked Blanco, and I'm like, he lost, but due to something, like, I was ranting about, you know, it's like, at least I kind of sounded like I knew what I was talking about there. But this fight, I didn't sound like I knew what I was talking about here. Yeah, Pena, bullied Rakoczy, got the takedown, passed the mount, kept punching her. Rakoczy couldn't really do anything. She kept kicking up her legs. Pena had a high mount too, you know. There's some controversy with the stoppage. Yeah, I don't think there's much of controversy. It's just Rakoczy just kind of was lying there, just defending. If she kept kicking up her legs, maybe there's an argument that like she's still trying to get out of it. But I think there was a point where she was just kind of lying there after a while, just getting mainly her arms punched, but nonetheless, you know, she's still getting battered. You know. This is really interesting though, because Juliana Pena is now the first Ultimate Fighter female winner, and that, in my opinion, probably carries a lot more weight than, say, a male winner at this point, because she is the first. She's still young too, you know. I find her physically attractive, and I always say this with women's MMA. It just doesn't hurt to be physically attractive. It's just a part of the thing, you know. It's just a part of the game, you know. Her fighting style is... I've seen it a lot in women's MMA, and I want to say it kind of has a ceiling. Miesha Tate actually is kind of similar to Pena. I think just a better wrestler. They kind of just bull rush forward and like really force a takedown. In a sense, Ronda Rousey though kind of does what Pena does, just with much cleaner technique. I think Liz Carmouche kind of fights like Pena too. Just kind of really bull rushes, forces the takedown. It's kind of a kill, you know. Really good on top, really good in mount, you know. Always good ground and pound. I don't know how far it can get her in the... I mean, it'll get her relatively far, but you know that there's a point where it's like, oh man, you're not going to do this to Sarah McMahon. You're probably not going to do this to Sarah Kaufman. I mean, this is the top of the division, though. So, who knows what her style is going to be like moving forward. She's still really young, too. One thing about her, too, is I'm sure that they'll get her some winnable fights. You know, she is someone that you don't want to promote. She was talking a lot of smack about Rousey. And like I said, she's still pretty young. You know, the first Ultimate Fighter female champion. Still young. Still a prospect, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, as far as she gets next, maybe a UFC newcomer, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm trying to think of like maybe an Alexander Albu even, you know, just someone that she can just kind of look good against. Don't want to give her someone tough, though. Jessica Andrade would be really tough. And then once again, like, I don't know if Pena's style would even work against a Jessica Andrade. She could fight like Raquel Pennington next also. That wouldn't be too bad. So it's kind of interesting because I'm sure that the UFC is probably going to want to invest a lot in Pena. She definitely has, you know, like the Ultimate Fighter thing going on with her. She's Venezuelan. I wonder if that's going to help her as well, you know. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with her. With Jessica Rakoczy, she's a bit older. She's in her like late 30s. She doesn't have a lot of fights. Her record's not that great though. Very deceptive though. Like a lot of the losses are to like top female fighters. She only has one official pro MMA win. You know, if they wanna, they'll probably keep her. Just some really lower to mid-tier female fighter. Maybe they'll give her like a Sarah Morris or something like that. But yeah, you know, good win for Pena. Okay, next fight after that, Chris Holdreth beat Davey Grant by rear naked choke in the second round. I like Holtz's prospect potential. I mean, the guy, honestly, he doesn't have a lot of fights, but he fights at a pretty high level. I mean, his stand-up doesn't look too bad. He trains at a good camp with Team Alpha Male. He's young, good wrestler, and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I mean, he's kind of, he's kind of got the whole package going on. As far as, I'm not saying he's like some blue chip prospect, but even then, he's pretty good. I think he can actually be one of the guys coming out of the Ultimate Fighter where you'll see a little down the line where he'll turn out to be a top 10 guy. I like his prospects. I think there's a lot of potential in the guy. I think he's just fight more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. And same with Davey Grant. There's really not much I can say. It kind of, even the ending, like I kind of thought, if Holder's gonna win, it's probably rear naked choke, and he won by rear naked choke. It's not much I can really say. And actually, moving forward with these predictions too, or this analysis, my bad. Most of the, as far as who these guys should fight next, I'm just gonna say mainly lower to mid-tier guys. I mean, a lot of these guys just are UFC newcomers, prospects. I mean, there's not really definitive opponents that I'd give these guys that, some other mid-tier guy wouldn't work or something like that, Next right after that, Jessamine Duke beat Peggy Morgan by unanimous decision. I like Duke's prospects as a female bantamweight. This is her 4th pro MMA fight. She has good stand-up. Her ground game is actually pretty good too. And she's really tall. The thing that really was bad was that headlock she did on Morgan, almost getting choked out. That was just real rookie mistake on her part. Seems like she's trying to go for more judo throws. I know she's working with Rousey, so I wonder. Looks like it's it actually works for her size. She's not someone that comes off as someone that'll do like a double leg or single leg takedown. Peggy Morgan honestly just isn't really a UFC caliber fighter. They'll probably keep her. Her she's mainly, her stand-up's not even that good. I don't know where she's good at. She got hit a lot in the face. She's not the quickest fighter either. One other thing to consider about this card also, though, is that the UFC's going to have a lot of cards. So seeing, fighters, UFC newcomers and whatnot, is going to be start to be the norm. And there's a good chance, in my opinion, that they're probably going to keep a lot more fighters that would have otherwise have been cut. So even with the loss here, I can see Peggy Morgan staying in the UFC, to be perfectly honest with you. Jessamine Duke, for who she could fight next. He's coming off a win. Maybe the winner of Kedsey versus Beth Correa would be pretty good for her. Let's correct Jessica Andrade. That wouldn't be a bad fight for either. And who else? Coming off the Ultimate Fighter, you could go with Baszler or Sarah Morris. That wouldn't be too bad either. Morgan, if she stays, just really whoever they can get. I can't. The biggest problem, the thing with the UFC right now is, besides the female fighters they got from Tough, a lot of the 135ers that they got are the top 135ers. So it's really tough to match anyone up, because you can't do who's coming off a loss? Liz Carmouche. Okay, well, Carmouche Morgan. Carmouche is gonna kill Morgan probably. Or not kill, but take down and ground and pound her. I was just coming off loss. Sarah Kaufman? Sarah Kaufman's going to probably beat up Morgan on the feet, you know? So it's really hard to say who to give these fighters next, sometimes. Next one after that, Raquel Pennington beat Roxanne Modafferi by unanimous decision. This is interesting in the sense that I was told that, I believe it was Dave Meltzer, said that the UFC's probably going to keep Roxanne Modafferi, and she might even be like a Dan Hardy type or Leonard Garcia type where she needs like 3 or 4 losses to get cut. I love Roxanne Modafferi. I mean, jeez, you know, she's an awesome person. She's not a UFC caliber fighter, you know. She would be better fit at the 125-pound Invicta roster. But what she does have going for her is that she is a fan favorite. The women's division isn't that deep. And they are putting out more cards. And therefore they need fighters to fill out their cards. So I can actually see the UFC keeping Roxanne Modafferi after this. Her stand-up actually looked improved in the first round. But man, her defense is still pretty bad. And she's just really unathletic. Pennington, you know, she's a good prospect. You know, very early in her career, she fought, you know, in Invicta, she fought like Kat Zingano and Leslie Smith back to back. It's just a little too much too soon. There's something, and it showed in The Ultimate Fighter. She still has problems with like pulling the trigger. But yeah, you know, she's a solid fighter and a solid prospect for women's bantamweight. You know, as far as who she can fight, she actually already beat Sarah Morris, so maybe Baszler. Maybe the winner of Kedzie, Beth Corey or something like that. Yeah, on to the prelims. Akira Khorasani beat Maximo Blanco by disqualification. Show my prediction show. You saw that I got on this really big rant on Maximo Blanco about how, and it's funny, this is true. Okay, against Pat Healy, they were both grounded. I think it was in this weird leg lock position or something, an armbar, and Maximo Blanco keeps kicking Pat Healy in the face. I mean, it's a total illegal move, you know. He goes into UFC, has a stinker with Marcus Brimage, fights Sam Cecilia, and right? Is that right? No, I'm trying to think about Blanco. I know he fought I think he fought Sam Cecilia, and he won. But man, did he grab the fence like all the time. I mean, this guy cannot follow the unified rules. I mean, this guy, for some weird reason, the rules and him just do not mix. I don't understand it, but yeah, he's just one of those guys that just cannot follow the unified rules. It's very funny, and it cost him here. I've talked about knees to grounded opponent before. I hate the rule, but it is a rule. It was pretty blatant too, you know. I mean, Akira Khorasani was getting up. You know, I don't. One of my biggest problems with this whole like knee to the grounded opponent thing is I don't see the safety issue. That's the thing. I think these rules should be in place. Don't hit the back of the head because of like, you know, you're gonna hit that sensitive area where the spine meets the head or brain or something like that. Something like that. But it's like, you know, you don't hit the back of the head for the safety of the fighters. You know what I mean? There's a legit concern there. Here, I don't know what the concern is. You know, someone said, yeah, if you knee a fighter against the cage, there's no give, and therefore, like, you know, you don't want to do knees to ground an opponent. I don't know if that's true. I don't know how many situations where that really happens either, to be perfectly honest with you. I I think Akira Khorasani broke his nose. A lot of people were saying he was faking and whatnot. I thought it was legit. I mean, the medical records show he like broke his nose in like 5 different places or something like that. I mean, it was pretty bad, you know. But yeah, not a good look for Blanco because, like I said, the guy's really good. Stand-up wrestling, it's all really good. He's a very good fighter. It's just there are things about him mentally that prevent him to get farther than his potential. Akira Khorasani, it's really interesting because he's actually on a 3-fight win streak. And most fighters in the UFC after a 3-fight win streak would probably get a step up in competition. Quite honestly, I think that he should be fighting fighters around the same level at this point. I don't really know much about Khorasani per se, you know. His fight didn't really tell me that he's good enough to beat Max Blanco. When he first came to the UFC, he fought Andy Ogo, and a lot of people thought he lost. He looked impressive against Robbie Peralta. And in this fight, it looks like he got swarmed. I think he's like 31. I don't know if he's a prospect. Does have the Swedish thing going for him. Got a personality too. So I think he just fight more lower to mid-tier guys. And if they don't cut Maximo Blanco, it's more lower to mid-tier guys. He can beat those guys, like lower to mid-tier guys. It's just he can't seem to follow the rules to do so, or else like he just throws an absolute stinker like he did against Brimage, and the best part of the fight becomes the tumbling competition after the fight. You know. Yeah. So next out of that, Tom Inimaki beat Ronnie Yaya by split decision. Don't agree with the split. I thought it was a clear unanimous decision for Inimaki. This is one of the fights I actually missed as well. Really impressive. I was really impressed with Inimaki. I liked a lot what Yaya was doing. Yaya's always been... It's been said with Yaya he's a small 145 range. He even fought at 135. This might be the fight that tells him, hey, maybe you should cut back down to 135, you know? I'm not saying it's like all size that beat is the reason why Inimaki... Dude, Inimaki was just totally challenged Yaya at his own game on the ground and hung in there and got dominant positions. I mean, seriously, this guy's ground game's really good. Very solid fighter. You know, if you're going into black belt's guard and into his wheelhouse and escaping sweeps and whatnot, man, you know, it says a lot about his ground game because Yaya was working from his back. He was going for deep half guard sweeps and whatnot. Went for a nice like guillotine sweep, you know. It was cool. Inimaki knew what to do. I like this fight actually, just on a technical level. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens to Inimaki next. You know, I think he's like 31 or something like that. He's not really what I'd call a prospect, but he's a solid fighter for sure. Just more lower to mid-tier guys for him. And Yaya, if he can cut down to 135, he probably should. I think this is the fight that really showed, hey, you know, the size difference is a factor here. I mean, Inimaki, like I said, showed a lot of skill, but you can definitely see the size also really helped as well. But yeah, just more lower to mid-tier for Ronnie Yaya as well. And next for us, we have the heavyweights. It's Jared Walshaw beat Walter Harris by unanimous decision. The first round was kind of cool when Harris dropped him, but then Walshaw actually got the better of the stand-up in round 2. And then round 3 got the takedown and just pretty much got half guard, you know. Kept him down there, some ground and pound, nice elbows. Not the best heavyweight fight, you know, per se. It came across like a heavyweight fight, you know. Like, if there was no, like, knockout or finish early, then it looks pretty bad. Yeah, not, it's hard to say. Jared Rosholt, he is a good wrestler. He still needs some work in his stand-up. Definitely quicker fighters will beat him to the punch. Still not the worst prospect at heavyweight in a division that needs prospects. Both of these guys actually aren't bad prospects. Walter Harris, honestly, pretty athletic guy, hits hard. Not the worst prospect in the division. I'd just say get more lower to mid-tier guys of the division as well. Next for that, Sean Spencer beat Drew Dober by unanimous decision. Good one for Sean Spencer. Started the fight. He defended the takedowns from Dober. Found a home for, I believe it's the right hands. Couldn't finish Dober. It's one of the things with Sean Spencer. He is billed mainly as a striker, but he just doesn't seem to have that fight-ending power. Dober was fighting one weight class above what he usually does. He usually fights at lightweight, so they gave him another fight, just more lower to mid-tier guys. Sean Spencer, I think, is on a 2-fight win streak now. Beat Yuri Villafort. Looks pretty good. Stand up solid, takedown defense isn't too bad. It's more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. And finally, Joshua Sampo beat Ryan Benoit by rear naked choke in the second round. Fun fight. Definitely my personal pick for fight of the night. Alright, 2 times when Sampo went to mount, Benoit would reverse. That was pretty interesting. I think Benoit even took Sampo's back at one point. The weight thing with flyweight, it's really interesting because we see it with John Lineker. It's like, and I guess this was the lesson here of why you shouldn't fail to make weight, because if you got a bonus, you're not gonna get it anymore. Good one for Sampo. I like his ground game, his wrestling. His stand-up wasn't actually too bad. His ground game is really good. It's really solid. And I know some sites have him as a top 10 flyweight. If he can make the weight, I just like to see him fight. More lower to mid-tier of flyweight, really. Can't really name a particular opponent, but yeah, just more lower to mid-tier. Ryan Benoit, he was game. I think he should get another fight in the UFC. More lower to mid-tier for him as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my post-fight analysis for the Ultimate Fighter Finale 18. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.